What's up, welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with my 2025 Oscar nominations predictions. The Oscar nominations announcement was delayed due to the fires in Los Angeles, but is still coming middle of next week. So we have to get those predictions for what will be nominated, who will get in, who will be snubbed. We have to get all that out there. I'm going to go through every category, talk about who I think will win, who I'd like to win. I'm going to go through every category, who I think will be nominated, who I would like to get nominated. And then, of course, when the nominations are officially announced, I will be back to talk about all of that and our surprises and shocks when we do get the news. And then, of course, late February, come back, we'll make our official Oscar predictions and decide who, in fact, will win. So we're just going to go through all the big awards. Now, I know it's kind of boring, perhaps, to start directly with Best Picture, but to me, it makes the most sense to talk about Best Picture just because how we feel about Best Picture really informs how we feel about a lot of the other awards. So I think it just makes sense to kind of talk top down when it comes to this. So with Best Picture, of course, as we know, this can be up to 10 films. Not necessarily will be 10, though. Sometimes it's 8 or 9. That being said, I think majority of this field is pretty locked in, pretty dead set. We're gonna go through the precursor awards that as they're relevant, as our data points, so to speak, as our reading of the tea leaves, and then we'll take it from there. So with Best Picture, I think there's a really strong core group here. That would be The Brutalist, Honora, Amelia Perez, Conclave, Wicked, Dune Part 2, A Complete Unknown. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. After that, I'm feeling very confident about Sing Sing and The Substance, and that's 9. So the question for me there is what is that 10th film to get in? Now, in terms of that first grouping, all of those films were Golden Globe nominated with the exception of Sing Sing. Golden Globes, as we know, drama comedy, so it's a wider net, not the most predictive or helpful. They don't really share a lot of voters with the Academy. Moving on, though, the BAFTAs, definitely a bit more eye-opening there, and this is only a 5-film field, so this will help us here. So the BAFTAs nominated The Brutalist, Honora, Emilia Paris, Conclave, and A Complete Unknown. Next step, we have the Producers Guild of America, and they nominate a full 10, and they did our core grouping as well as The Substance. And the SAG Ensemble Award, effectively their Best Movie Award, they nominated Honora, Emilia Paris, Conclave, Wicked, and A Complete Unknown, and did not nominate The Brutalist. And the Directors Guild Award did Brutalist, Honora, Emilia Paris, Conclave, and Complete Unknown, directors, of course. In terms of completing out, the 10, the PGA also nominated A Real Pain and September 5. So if you think about it there, in terms of completing it out there, completing our 10th spot here, Challengers only had a musical or comedy nomination at the Globes, so that unfortunately feels like it's not going to happen there. September 5 has the PGA nom, but no other noms. Nickel Boys has a Globe nom, and an Independent Spirit nom, and Critics' Choice, if you care about that. Not really predictive either. A Real Pain has the Globe and PGA. So I don't know. I would not be shocked if this doesn't end up getting to 10. And it's really just kind of a crapshoot at this point, picking that last spot or two. And I think the main takeaway with Best Picture is that Brutalist, Honora, Emilia Paris, Conclave, that's probably your top 4, incredibly safe across the board. And then after that, Wicked, Dune Part 2, A Complete Unknown, very safe. And then Sing Sing and Substance, pretty safe as well. So that's 9 films, and I'd not be shocked if that's only our 9. If I was to pick a 10th, it's really hard to say, but I'll probably go with, it's hard. I want to say Nickel Boys, but it might just be a little too atypical in terms of how that movie works. So I don't know. I feel like September 5 is probably the safest, but I don't know if that film's late release is going to help it. So I'll lean September 5. I don't feel like A Real Pain is going to get through with Best Picture, but I think that's the field. I don't think there's anything else that's going to surprise. I don't think there's any other international films that'll get through. So that's Best Picture. And perhaps that's a little boring, but that's kind of our starting place here. Moving on to Best Director, it's kind of similar where we have 4 of the 5 very certain, and that 5th one is actually incredibly open, which is fun. It's usually not quite like this. In terms of the 4 in Best Director that are really easy to pick, that would be Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, Sean Baker for Anora, Jack Odiard for Amelia Perez, and Edward Berger for Conclave. Again, that was the four I said were most safe and best picture. That big four, they've swept everything. They've all been Globe nominated. Corbet won. They're all BAFTA nominated. They're all Directors Guild of America nominated. And they're all Critics' Choice Award nominated. Corbet and Baker also Indie Spirit Award nominated. So I don't see any of them not making it. And, we always talk about the Directors Guild branch, the Academy in general, a lot more international than it's been, say 5+ years ago. We're seeing that bear out with people like Powell Pawlikowski for Cold War being nominated, Ruke Hamaguchi for Drive My Car being nominated, Bong Joon-ho, of course, winning for Parasite, right? So that's already being accomplished here because Jack Odiard and Edward Berger are both European. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, who is the fifth person for Best Director? I think a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, I would have thought it'd be Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2, of course, who did not get nominated for Part 1. It's a directing feat, what he did with that amazing film, as we know. Be an awesome nomination, incredibly justly earned, but Denny not getting a DGA nomination is tough. Denny did get the BAFTA nomination, but they nominate 6. Now, who also got a nomination at the BAFTA, including the Big Four, was Coralie Fargett for The Substance. And Fargett also got a Globe nomination. Also got a Critics' Choice nomination like Denny. So I think it's between Fargett and Denny, but the wrinkle here is that James Mangold, director of A Complete Unknown, got the 5th Directors Guild nomination. So as a result, it's a mismatch. It's really hard to say who that 5th one is going to be. I also should shout out Payal Kapadia, who directed All We Can Imagine Is Light, the Indian film, was Golden Globe nominated in the big director field. Ramel Ross for Nickel Boys was Critics' Choice Award nominated. John Chu for Wicked was as well. I think it's between Fargett and Denny for the 5th spot, and I don't know, I feel like the momentum's behind The Substance. Demi Moore rapidly rising for Best Actress, right? So I feel like Dune is a weaker awards film than anticipated, so I think it's going to be Fargett. I would not be shocked if it's Denny, but I'm leaning Fargett. I think that's our 5. Moving on, that brings us to the acting categories, starting with Best Actor. I think once again we have a core 4 and then a 5th spot that's really hard to figure out. The core 4 would be Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet for Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, and Ray Fiennes for Conclave. All of them were Globe nominated, where Brody won. They're all SAG nominated as well, and they're all BAFTA nominated. Now, that 5th spot could be a few places. It could be Daniel Craig, who was Globe nominated and SAG nominated, but not BAFTA nominated. It could be Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, who was Globe nominated and BAFTA nominated, but not SAG nominated. We should shout out Hugh Grant in Heretic, who was nominated for Globe in the comedy category, and then also was BAFTA nominated, although we should acknowledge the Brit bias that the BAFTAs often carry. That's probably your 7. I mean, Jesse Eisenberg, I think, is on the outside. I think Sebastian Stan's other role in A Different Man is on the outside. I think Nicholas Hoult in Juror Number 2 is on the outside. So I think it's between Craig and Stan. Of course, Stan being nominated for portraying Trump, a movie that's, I think, more liked than Queer. To be honest, Queer is certainly the second Luca Guadagnino film this year. I was not a big fan of the movie, but I did think Craig was very good in the movie. This one's tough, I think I'll have to lean Craig, given the SAG nom. We know the actors are a big part of the voting body. The Trump baggage will probably hold Stan back in with the nom to a certain degree at least. So I'll go with Craig, but I would not be shocked if it's Stan. I don't think Hugh Grant can get through though. Best Actress is another one where 4 seem very safe and the 5th one is really up for grabs. That 4 would be Demi Moore for The Substance, who won the Globe, Mikey Madison for Anora, Carlos Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, and Cynthia Erivo for Wicked. All 4 of them Globe nominated, all 4 of them SAG nominated, and all 4 of them BAFTA nominated. Now, that 5th spot is a tough one. So here's the thing. That 5th SAG nomination for Best Actress went to none other than Pamela Anderson in The Last Showgirl, who also got one of the Globe nominations. Anderson did not get a BAFTA, though. The other BAFTA nominations, the other 2, went to Marianne Jean-Baptiste in Mike Leigh's Hard Truths and Saoirse Ronan in the Outrun. Well, we'll say Brit bias, even though she's Irish. The Globes, though, spread it out more, of course, with more nominations. They also nominated Zendaya, Amy Adams, Fernando Torres, Nicole Kidman. So I don't know. This one's kind of hard. Where again we have our four: Demi Moore, Mikey Madison, Carlos Sofia Gascon, and Cynthia Erivo. I think your fifth spot is between Fernando Torres for the Brazilian film I'm Still Here, and there's a lot of fanfare and heavy campaigning for that movie. Also, a lot of heavy campaigning for Pamela Anderson. It's not dissimilar from what happened with Andrea Riseborough with To Leslie, 2 years ago, where it kind of came out of nowhere and the Best Actress nomination actually happened. I don't think Marianne Jean Baptiste is as strong as I was necessarily thinking even a week ago, but I don't know. I think it could be any of those three. I don't feel like Nicole Kidman is Hero Baby Girl. I think she's on the outside. Zendaya, I'd love it. I love challengers. I don't think it's going to happen. So I don't know. This one's really tough for me to call. I'll go with Fernando Torres because international voting will help her, and then also because Marianne Jean Baptiste previously was nominated before, and maybe that'll help people break their voting tie. I don't know. I can't predict the Pamela Anderson one. I have to see that happen first, but this is another tough one. That leads us to Best Supporting Actor, which again, stop me if you heard this before, but 4 of the 5 seem pretty easy to predict. Those 4 would be Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, Yura Borisov for Honora, and Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown. All 4 were Globe nominated, where Culkin won, and the Globes always do that dumb thing where they separate actor and actress in musical or comedy, but then they don't do that for supporting, so it's like the Oscars with supporting. Weird. The SAG, though, is a bit interesting, where Culkin, Borisov, and Norton were all nominated. Guy Pearce was not, and in his place was Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice, who also was Globe nominated. The BAFTA nominations went to Culkin, Pearce, Borisov, Norton, Strong, and also Clarence Macklin from Sing Sing. And also in the mix would be Denzel, who was Globe nominated, but not SAG, and Macklin, who was not Globe nominated, not SAG nominated, but again got that BAFTA nomination. Also, in Pearce's place with the SAG nomination, the 5th spot with supporting actor for SAG was Jonathan Bailey from Wicked, but he was not represented anywhere else. Stanley Tucci for Conclave never got nominated really anywhere, so that never really happened. Yeah, so where does that leave us? I think when Gladiator 2 first came out, it seemed a lot easier to predict that Denzel was gonna get nominated for supporting actor. Obviously, he's a multi-time winner at this point. Would have been a kind of sick nom, though, to be honest. But given he only got a Globe nomination and kind of got blanked everywhere else, I don't think it's wise to predict it. So we have Culkin, Pearce, Borisov, and Norton. I'm still picking Pearce despite the SAG blank. So that leaves us with that 4. And then that 5th spot, Jeremy Strong as Roy Cohn in The Apprentice, Denzel, Clarence Macklin. Hard to say, right? Again, there's no clear evidence really lean you into either one. I think Jeremy Strong is probably the pick, just because The Apprentice is probably has more awards juice than Gladiator 2 does, and Clarence Macklin, though, I would not be shocked. I mean, he's fantastic in Sing Sing. Certainly a worthy performance, and it's a newcomer. It's a fresh face type nomination as well. So I wouldn't rule it out, but I'll lean Jeremy Strong. But again, I'm not super confident. And then that leads us to the most interesting acting category of them all, which is Best Supporting Actress, which is very hard to call. Only 2 people are definitely getting nominated. That would be Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez and Ariana Grande for Wicked. Both of them were Globe nominated, where Zoe won, and both were SAG and BAFTA nominated. Everywhere else, someone got blinked somewhere. Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, nominated at the Globes, nominated BAFTA, blinked by SAG. Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, nominated for the Globes, nominated for BAFTA, blinked by SAG. Monica Barbaro for A Complete Unknown, blinked by the Globes, blinked by BAFTA, but nominated for SAG. Margaret Qualley for The Substance, nominated for the Globe, blinked by SAG and BAFTA. Daniel Deadwyler for The Piano Lesson, blinked by the Globes, blinked by BAFTA, but nominated for SAG. Selena Gomez for Emilia Perez, nominated for the Globe, nominated for the BAFTA, blinked by SAG. And then lastly, late breaking, Jamie Lee Curtis for The Last Showgirl, blinked by the Globes, nominated by SAG, nominated by BAFTA. Jamie Lee Curtis, one of the 5 SAG nominations. That is huge. Daniel Deadweiler, also getting a SAG nomination. That is huge, as we know the actors are the largest voting body in the Academy. Audrey Ellis Taylor got a Critics' Choice Award nominations for Nickel Boys, but not really recognized anywhere else, so I think she's out. So that's hard. That's really hard, I think I'm putting Zoe and Ari in, of course. I'm going to put Isabella Rossellini and Felicity Jones in. Again, not confident, but in, given the strength of those movies, Brutalist and Conclave, across the board. And we'll just say we're working on the 5th spot here. Margaret Qualley, with The Substance Rising, possible, but probably not. Monica Barbaro, SAG nomination, amazing, and a complete unknown. To me, it would be my personal pick. I think she's essential to that movie. Maybe. Daniel Deadweiler, she got blinked recently for Till, was great in Station 11 on TV. She's been great for a while. Be a nice nomination. Piano Lesson, though, didn't really happen for the movie overall. Selena Gomez, Amelia Perez seems very strong. Zoe's going to be nominated in this category. Carla Sofia Gascon in Best Actress, ODR and Director, Amelia Perez in Best Picture. Could Selena Gomez also get nominated? It's possible. She's really famous. The movie seems to be strong, despite the polarizing nature to it. I didn't really care for her performance. I don't think her performance has been super celebrated, to be honest, so it's hard to be confident picking it. And Jamie Lee Curtis, I mean, geez. If that happened, then Pamela Anderson definitely is happening. An actress, right? I'm not going to pick it. It's a movie I haven't seen yet, so I can't really speak too much on it. But yeah, that would be a big shock, I guess, if The Last Show Girl kind of steamrolled last minute to getting 2 acting nominations. Talk about effective campaigning. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm putting Rossellini and Jones in. So that 5th spot, we're looking at Barbaro, Qualley, Deadweiler, JLC, or Gomez. Tough one. I think this is going to be a hard one for someone to get right because, again, Rossellini or Felicity Jones, one of them could miss for sure. They're not locks. I think it could be a hard one to get right. This could be the one that breaks a lot of bracket pools for Oscar picks and whatnot. I'll go with Barbaro. Maybe a clean unknown, just a bit stronger than we think. Mangle getting that DGA nomination. Edward Norton seemingly pretty safe with getting a nom as well. I'll go with Barbaro, but part of me thinks it could really end up just being Gomez, which would be kind of wild. But yeah, I'll go with Barbaro. So that's the acting categories. Now we'll move on to screenplay. I think screenplay in particular is quite funky this year, just because, as we know, the main predictor for a screenplay would be the Writers Guild Award nominations, but the WGA has their rules about you have to be, a member to be nominated, be recognized, so that therefore a lot of movies are not in the mix. It is not eligible for WGA nominations. This year around, that's Conclave and Amelia Perez. Interestingly, The Brutalist was eligible at the WGAs, but was not nominated for original screenplay. So that kind of leaves us with, only so much evidence, right? Best original screenplay, I think Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, and The Substance all feel pretty stable. They all got BAFTA recognized as well. And the 5th BAFTA original screenplay nomination went to Kneecap. Again, general Brit bias, probably not going to happen, although that movie did make the shortlist for Best International Feature Film. Screenplay awards are often where, movies outside of the Best Picture mix can get recognized. Makes a lot of sense why A Real Pain would be here. Now, what else could that entail? September 5, Hard Truths, Challengers, All You Imagine Is Light. Not sure. It's really hard to say. I want to go with my heart and pick Challengers here. I don't see it though, and I think I just have a hard time getting a sense of what kind of below the line juice does Hard Truth and September 5 have at this point. I don't really know. I think September 5, given the rhythm of that movie, is a worthy nomination here though, and that's where I'll pick. But it's hard to say. And again, I'm still picking The Brutalist, even though it didn't get a WGA nomination. Adapted screenplay, I think a little bit easier to parse here, but still some doubt. Conclave is the favorite to win this category, even though it wasn't WGA nominated, alongside other noms for Sing Sing, Amelia Perez, Nickel Boys, and A Complete Unknown. All of them were BAFTA nominated. So that's your four. And the fifth one for adapted screenplay could be Wicked, could be Dune Part 2. I don't know if anyone else is really trying to sneak in there. At the WGA, they also recognized was it Hitman as well. I don't think there's enough juice there. So yeah, I mean, this one might be a little easier. I guess the question of what do you think's stronger, Wicked or Dune? You know, I wouldn't call the Wicked script its strength. Then again, it's a effective form of adaptation. But in a sense, Wicked was already adapted once before. It was a novel before it was a stage play, and Dune, long heralded as an unadaptable text, higher degree of difficulty perhaps. I would go with Dune, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen. So, Conclave, Sing Sing, Les Paris, Nickel Boys, Clean Unknown, and Nickel Boys probably not super safe in this category, but I think it's certainly worthy. It's an adaptation of a Colson Whitehead novel and a really inventive one at that. Makes sense. I'll go with Dune, but I'm not super confident in it. Best cinematography, I think this one it's a fun one once again. Brutalist, Dune Part 2 seem really obvious. Nosferatu actually seemed pretty safe in this category as well, which is sick. I'm not really sure where the rest of the category goes, though. Wicked could be in the mix here. Nickel Boy should be in the mix here, given what that movie literally does with cinematography in terms of its first person point of view and whatnot. Amelia Paris could get in here. I don't really think of that movie cinematography though, to be honest, but that movie just might have so much underlying strength that it'll get through here. Not really sure. If you look at the BAFTAs and the ASC, the American Society of Cinematographers, neither of them nominated Nickel Boys, which seems like a tough beat overall. A Complete Unknown was in there. Conclave was in there, I think, is really good cinematography. Netflix's Maria in the mix as well. Forgot to mention Angelina Jolie. I don't think she's going to get through a Best Actress for that movie. So yeah, I don't know. This one's kind of hard. I'll keep Nickel Boys in, but maybe it's just wishful thinking. So we'll go Brutalist, Nosferatu, Dune, Conclave, and Nickel Boys for our 5. I'll keep Amelia Paris out. Best Original Score. This is a great one. I think Brutalist, Conclave, Amelia Paris are definitely in. Then from there, Challengers, which won at the Globes, and probably Wicked. Probably, right? Hard to say again. One thing I should note too with all these below the line categories where they all have all the shortlists, so you know what's in the mix already. Furiosa, not on the shortlist for any awards, including production design and visual effects, despite what happened with Fury Road. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, score. I'll keep Challengers in, and I'll probably I think Wicked will get through. So Brutalist, Conclave, Perez, Challengers, Wicked. Best animated feature, an interesting one this year, like it usually is. I think The Wild Robot, Flow, and Inside Out 2 are all definitely in. And then the last two is actually really open. Usually it's not quite like this, but there's Memoir of a Snail, there's the Wallace and Gromit movie, obviously some high profile stuff like Moana 2, Despicable Me 4, The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. If you look at the Annie Awards, like the big animation, awards body, they didn't nominate Flow, which was a bit surprising to me. And in its place, they had Kung Fu Panda 4, Ultraman Rising, which I believe was on Netflix. I'll shout out The Imaginary, the Studio Ponic movie that was on Netflix in the middle of the year. I think that would be a pretty cool nomination, but it's probably not going to get through. So I'll go with The Wild Robot, Flow, Inside Out 2, and gosh, I don't know. I mean, I didn't like Moana 2. I didn't really care for Kung Fu Panda 4 either. Now, of a Snail probably get in, and I'm not a claymation guy, but it seems like that movie's pretty well liked. And that fifth spot, we'll go Wallace and Gromit. Again, I don't have a lot of passion for that. Best International Feature Film. This one is probably less fun for who's going to win than who actually gets nominated, because Emilia Paris will be nominated here and it will win, because whenever something is also nominated for Best Picture, it wins this category. And I'm not speaking hyperbole. This has happened several times recently. It happened with Parasite. It happened with Drive My Car. It happens a lot recently, just because international films are more likely to get into Best Picture for nomination anyway than they were in the past, which is awesome. So this is not super hard to predict the winner most years, but who else gets through? More fun to think about. I think The Sea, the Sacred Fig, the technically German nomination, but an Iranian film. Check my review if you missed it. I think that one's in for sure from Mohammad Rusulov. I think I'm Still Here, the Brazilian film starring man Fernando Torres. I think that's in. I think Flow, the animated film from Latvia. I think that's in. And that fifth spot, interesting. I think in a different year, there's a lot more celebrated movies that could have got through here. All We Imagine Is Light from India was not selected to be nominated from India, thus can't be nominated here. Similar to what happened with RRR a few years ago. In Japan, they didn't nominate Ruke Hamaguchi's Drive My Car follow-up, Evil Does Not Exist, so that can't get through. What they did nominate was Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cloud, which is really well liked, and it's actually releasing here in the summer. We just got news of that, but that did not make the shortlist in the end. What did make the shortlist was Dahomey by Matty Diop. If you remember, Matty Diop's last film, Atlantics, made the shortlist but didn't get nominated. I don't think Dahomey, which is a documentary, will get through this time either. So I think kind of like, there's the Italian film Vermiglio, maybe. I think it kind of like almost like by default, it's going to be Kneecap, the Irish film. So that'd be kind of cool. So yeah, Emily Paris, See the Sacred Fig, I'm Still Here, Flow, and Kneecap for international feature film. Best visual effects, I think this once again will not go to a Marvel film. They've been nominated like 20 something times, but have never won. This year would be Deadpool and Wolverine. Not going to happen. I don't even think it's going to get nominated this time around. I think the win is Dune Part 2. Close second, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. The rest of the nominations, though, a little more interesting, and these are intriguing movies. I think Wicked will probably get through here. The visual effects are pretty good. I wouldn't call them amazing compared to some of these other movies, but they'll probably get through. Gladiator 2, maybe. Twisters, maybe. I'm pulling for Alien Romulus, and honestly, I think Better Man. That movie really bombed, but the CGI is kind of good. Will they nominate 2 movies regarding CGI primates, Planet of the Apes, and Better Man? I'm less convinced. I think that's kind of your group. Civil War and Mufasa also made the short list. I'd love Civil War to get through, get some kind of recognition. That'd be cool. But yeah, probably not. Best sound, kind of a similar mix here. Dune Part 2, Wicked, Gladiator again. And then it'll probably just be movies with music. Millie Paris and A Complete Unknown. I think Aliens in the mix here, I guess, but that's kind of it. Best documentary feature film. I haven't seen any of these movies, but I think the favorites for sure. No Other Land. We'll see if Dahomey gets through here in place of getting nominated for best international feature film. That'd be interesting. Editing. This is obviously a really chief category for best picture contenders. But it's funny because Dune Part 2 is probably the favorite to win this, even though we don't think it's a top tier best picture contender. So alongside it, I think you have Conclave, Brutalist for sure, Honora, Emilia Perez, maybe. I wouldn't pick Emilia Perez. That movie has bad editing, if you ask me. In its place, maybe Challengers, maybe Complete Unknown. September 5 has a lot of editing talent behind the scenes, so I would not be shocked if that got through. Costume design, probably Wicked, but Nosferatu I think is in the mix here. Dune Part 2 in the mix here. Makeup and hairstyling, I think Substance makes a lot of sense here for a nom. Wicked also makes a lot of sense here. Cynthia Erivo was green in the movie, Nosferatu, again, a lot of craft love for that movie. And then from there, I think A Different Man, given what that movie does with prosthetics and makeup and whatnot, makes a lot of sense. And that last spot, could it be Dune, Emilia Perez, something kind of out of left field like Beetlejuice, perhaps. And then lastly, best song. This one, honestly, a lame category as we know. It's probably going to be El Mal from Emilia Perez. It is a memorable part of the movie. I would not be shocked if Emilia Perez gets a second nomination. The song Mi Camino seems to be the one rising up. Kiss the Sky, the Maren Morris song from Wild Robot, seems safe in here. And then from there, it's weird because Challengers submitted and made the shortlist with Compress Repress, even though I think the song Match Point from the movie is more popular and more instantly iconic. So that would actually kind of been my pick. Either way, Challengers I would love to be in here. I'm not sure though. There's the song from Sing Sing Like a Bird. I don't know. This category kind of sucks, as we know. And I don't predict the shorts if you're new here. I wish those were during the creative arts day before ceremony or something. They're just a different type of award in my opinion. But yeah, that's my Oscar nominations predictions. Again, make sure you come back right after the Oscar nominations are announced. I'll react to those and talk about the surprises and what we think. And then again, a week before the Oscars do air in early March, I will do my Oscar predictions. Almost all these movies discussed, I have reviewed on the channel as they released. So I try and keep up with things throughout the year. So if you're a big movie fan, make sure you come back as well. Let me know, who do you want to see nominated? Who are you most rooting for? What movie are you most rooting for? What are you most worried about not happening that you want to see happen? Let me know. And for more Oscar talk, more movie talk, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.